MK Golf, MK Ultra. Let's call you MK Ultra. I don't have my little cheap Amazon microphone because it doesn't fit my new iPad. The little receiver for my 14-cent Amazon microphone. So I don't know. I'll look at this video back and see if you can hear my voice. I've got the stereo system. I got the hi-fi over here. Got mowers, airplanes, Mother Nature. A lot of ambient noise. So hopefully you can hear me. Why you asked me why did I post Tiggy 2K? Yeah, not because I like steep shoulders necessarily. Some people need to steepen their shoulders, but I don't personally like super steep shoulders. But just in terms of what Ray has to work on, good old Ray. He's and this is pretty easy. He knows this. Most people didn't look at this one. You see this. But his release pattern, his wrist alignments, his release pattern is to kind of stay relatively secure with the shoulders, relatively level. Right shoulder tends to stay back a little bit as he throws the club head around his hands like this. Right, so if we just looked at the wrist alignment, just broke that down, the wrists look like this coming through the ball. So he gets that club head out and thrown around his wrist too early in the downswing. So he ends up looking, this is Ray, this is a little exaggerated. You don't look quite like this, but it looks something like that coming into the ball, right? And that's no bueno. So what he's got to do is he's got to work on the relationship of a new set of wrist alignments with his pivot. Because right now, the wrist, like his left arm, you'll notice, not only does he throw the club head out, but he has to do that, right? Because his left arm is really close to his torso, right? So that all fits together. Like the left arm tucked into the torso as he throws the club out to the ball. Like if he put his left arm in the right spot and then threw the club head out, he'd miss the ball completely on the outside of the ball. So, but what he needs to do is instead of the wrist alignments looking, he just isolated it. Instead of the wrist alignments looking like this coming through the ball, they need to look more like this coming through the ball. So do you see the difference? There would be good wrist alignments coming through the ball. And here's Ray coming through the ball. Like that, right? So yeah, we need to get it more this way. So what we're trying to do is two things at once. We're trying to make the arm swing in relation, and breaking up the pivot and the arm swing, two separate pieces, it's a little bit oversimplified. It's a little more complicated than that, but that's a reasonably good place to look at the foundation of the swing as you break it apart. And this is a good way to kind of, it's a good way to systematically separate the various pieces. The two main subcategories would be your arm swing, right, and your wrist alignments. That would be what your arms and wrists and hands are doing, and then what your pivot is doing, right? So that'd be a good place to break it up. And it's the relationship of those two things together from P3 in through P4 down to P5. It's that transition stage, what the arms are doing in relation to the pivot. That's really where the core of your motor pattern exists. Like in other words, I could do something weird on the backswing, but I could still hit the ball pretty well as long as I gathered everything up and my motor pattern kind of ran home to mama by the time I got down to P5. So I can do that as long as I can find my happy place by P5, right? So even though I could make some goofy backswings and the swing would look pretty different, by the time I got halfway down, my swing would start to look more like my normal swing, and that would allow me to put the club in the ball. But right now, the way Ray puts the club in the ball is he keeps the left arm tucked in and throws the club out away from his hands. With the right shoulder stayed real high and the shoulder turned real flat. So it kind of looks like this, because obviously it's going to go down and steepen pretty quickly like this. Like this is what's going to happen when he releases the club this way. So he kind of stays high and then releases like that. So the after impact is good, right, as opposed to like that. So he's got to start learning how to move the arms properly in relation to the shoulders, but he's also got to get the right shoulder to go down as the left arm stays out more this way. So instead of the left arm being in and throwing the hands out, needs the left arm out, the left wrist more flat, the face more closed, the right wrist more bent, and the club head further behind his hands, then it needs to look like this coming into the ball. Like you can see how, you know, AMG or anyone, Iacus, Monty, these guys all talk about the impact, the hand position, the impact is still a little bit on the right side of your torso, right? So that's where it is right there. So here's coming down into impact right there. Bang, there's impact. And then you continue to rotate the head and release it, and then you be moving into left wrist extension. But Ray goes full left wrist extension entirely too early, Ray. Way too early, Ray. You eager beavered with your cupping the left wrist. So we need to feel like we dump the arms down, but they dump down and out with the left wrist going flat and the left arm more out. In order for him to feel like the left arm can go out and be in the right spot in relation to the torso, his right shoulder's got to stay down and back. Now, if he did this thing with the shoulders where he's dumping the shoulder there, yeah, he'd swing 20 degrees to the right, away from the inside, something you point out. Yeah, I don't care, it's fine. Where I'm really more interested in what the arms are doing in relation as opposed to just moving the shoulders, but getting the sense of feeling like the right shoulder, chest is down and staying relatively closed. I don't mind that part. And then right shoulder more down, right? As left arm goes out in front of him a little bit more. So it's more in front of the torso like that instead of like this. The arms should look like this, right? And his chest would feel like it's pointed down just outside his right foot. And then from there, you can start to move through the ball and bring everything back together as the torso starts to feel like it speeds up. But the thing that people don't know is if you get to the top and you shift your pelvis the right way into your left leg, even if your chest stays closed a long time in the downswing, because you've set the left leg up as a springboard, because you've set the GR out sequence properly to be able to jump out of that left leg, then when you start to push up and out, which is happening just around P5 or a little later, it'll be amazing how much the right shoulder can look down and close, or the shoulders can look closed, and then immediately afterwards look open. This is why people look at tour pros, and tour pros look like they drop the arms down in front of their chest as the right shoulder stays down and back, right? So as they get to P6, they've started to open up their hips, but the chest is still pointed to the right. Shaft's in a good spot, P6, face is slightly down, left wrist is flat, right wrist is bent, left arm is relatively vertical or maybe a little out. Then if I go from here through impact, just pushing up out of the left leg a little bit, even though my right shoulder looks down and closed, by the time I get past impact, it doesn't take much as I push out of the left leg to all of a sudden look like I went from a closed chest position to an open chest position. It just doesn't take much movement, right? So that's why pros look like the chest stays back in the beginning as they drop the arms down in front of them, but then right after impact, it looks like they've opened up their body a lot. Now, do I need Raymond to actually look like Tiger? No. I mean, I think that Tiger's shoulders are super steep. I wouldn't try to teach someone to go that steep with the shoulders, and while he gets his hips wide open like that and locks his left leg out, I mean, that looks like there's not a lot of longevity to that. But the issue is when you start saying stuff like that, I mean, let's either have the performance argument or let's have the health argument. Like if the health argument is that, wow, if someone tries to swing like that, there's a good chance for spine injury, disc injury. Yeah, maybe. I mean, someone might be able to do it until they're 65 years old. Someone might do it until they're 27, get a bunch of disc injuries, blow a couple discs out, and never be able to play the same way again. No matter how many surgeries or PT they did. I mean, we just don't know what's going to happen. But we're fairly sure, when you listen to the medical people, that doing a bunch of crazy side bending at high speed is probably not good for your discs. You're probably going to have some issues sooner or later. So it's not that I would sit there and go, oh, I would teach someone to try to swing like Tiger. I mean, he's relevant because it's one of the best performing golf swings of all time, the Tiger 2000, whatever you want to call it. So it's relative to understand performance, what's happening. But health-wise, who knows? Would I feel comfortable trying to make someone do what Tiger was doing there? Probably not. I like things a little more neutral. I like the right shoulder not to get that steep. I don't like the hips to get that open. You don't need that kind of differential. But if you look at what Ray's doing, where he looks like this, coming in impact, then we want him to feel like this. We want him to feel left arm more out, right wrist more bent, left face more down, left arm straight out, right shoulder down like that, and be able to learn how to release the arms in relation to the torso, more like this, not like this. Right? We want it to look like that. Right? And So one of the things we would have to do is try to get him to look like this. Now, he would feel like this, but if you saw him doing that, you would go, why are you trying to dump your right shoulder? Well, it's not so much about the shoulder, it's about the hands and the arms in relation to the shoulder. And then what would happen is, let's say he started to do that pretty well, and he was still swinging like 8 degrees to the right, because his shoulders were staying too closed, like he was coming into the ball like this. Yeah, then you'd start to move the pivot forward and try to create some rotation in the pivot, right, to bring that whole assembly down into a more neutral position to the ball, right? But you would do it in that order. And some of the problem with just trying to feel like you're gonna get in a good backswing position or work on your pivot and then hope your hands do better, like your hands are not gonna listen to what your pivot's doing. The pivot's listening to where the hands wanna go, right? Because so proprioceptively, hand-eye coordination-wise, you have a sense of what you're trying to do with the hands and the shaft and the club head to try to hit the shot at that level of mediocrity that you're at, and maybe even below some level of mediocrity. And your brain puts no quality assessment on it and likes it, right? Your motor pattern likes it, thinks, well, this is fine. It's not fine, it sucks. So you gotta change the motor pattern. But your motor pattern is really sensitive in terms of basically how what forces and torques the hands are transmitting to the grip of the club to deliver to the ball in a certain orientation, right? So your brain's going to try to find that orientation with your hands and arms at impact. So if you just try to change your pivot, everything's going to be all cattywampus, and your brain's going to reverse engineer you into the thing it likes to do, right? Because it's just going to fight the changes you make with your pivot. That's what I mean by the hands sabotaging what you're doing with your torso or your shoulders or your hips or whatever, because your brain's going to actively fight you. Your motor pattern's going to fight you, going, I can't have the body here and do my normal thing with the hands. So you have to re-educate what the hands are supposed to do. So I would like Raymond to start to work on trying to get these little shots, with the little micro shots, trying to get this kind of delivery with the hands and arms and chest, right? Not do a lot with the lower body, because he's like Gumby with his flexibility. You're just going to keep that quite down. Just work on trying to get the arms and the shoulders to look more like this coming into the ball. And then as his brain starts to be comfortable with that release pattern with the hands and arms, as he hits the ball, then he can start to arrange the pivot so that it makes it easier, it makes it more efficient, it carries the arms into impact with more speed, et cetera. Right? And then almost reverse engineered. But something that's interesting is that it's not that the pivot doesn't matter. The pivot is hugely important. In fact, I'm a big pivot guy. Like, you can't have a good golf swing without a really good, dynamic, fundamentally sound pivot. But if your hands are trying to deliver the club in a certain orientation, then you really can't. It's almost impossible to fix your pivot, because your pivot will back itself into doing the least amount it can. And it will try to deliver the hands it will try to position the hands in the way the hands are happy. So you have to re-educate the hands and the arms, and then kind of reverse engineer the pivot with that new arm and hand movement. That's just the more effective way to do it. Generally, all right, there are certain exceptions where I would work on someone's pivot. I would start from the inside and kind of work out as opposed to the outside in. But I mean, just to give you an example, if you're gonna grab something or do something with your hands and arms athletically, or just pick something up off a shelf, then you don't feel like you're moving your chest and your shoulders and your hands, right? Even though the shoulders and the hands, the shoulders and maybe the chest and maybe the cervical spine, maybe the elbow, like those things are all giving the hand, like the hand is hitchhiking on those body parts to get to where it's trying to go. But these move exactly in relation to what the hand tells them in terms of where it needs to end up in its destination. Right? You're always looking, you have a sense of where the hand is, and you can see where the hand is in relation to where the object is. And so it's relaying back information in real time through the point of view of the hands to tell the body what to do to get the hands there in the right time at the right place. Right? And so that's why it's called hand-eye coordination. So you need to work from the club and the hands into the arms into the pivot, and then see how those kind of two subcategories work together. But one thing I think that Iacus, I think the other day, posted something where he showed by giving a kid more width of the backswing that he was actually able to make it look quite a bit different on P6. It was really dramatic, right? So some people might look at that and go, oh, well, he did that from the inside out. Like, he changed the pivot, and that made his hands look different in P6. Well, no. What he did was he changed the relationship between the arms and the pivot, right? So the arms felt like they had more width. The hands felt like they were farther away from the pivot going back, right? The arms felt like they were the radius of the arms of the hands in relation to your chest was wider going back, right? Maintaining more width. So he had his arms actually doing less and his pivot turning more, but it was really that it was the relationship between the two that caused all that to happen. And because the relationship changed, that translated down into P6. So it's really how the arm swing and the pivot are talking to each other, right? So if it comes down to what we're trying to do with Ray, it would be like, Ray looks like this. We want him to look more like that. So he needs to look like this, right? And who looks like that? I'll give you a hint. His name starts with a T and ends with Tiger Woods. So it's good to look at. But he would never want to go that far. He wouldn't need to go that far. He just needs to head that direction. So that's a lot of information. I hope you heard it. I'll go up and listen to it now. Maybe you heard the talking part. So that would be important. And chew on that and get back to us. See ya.